those of you who haven't seen me so far this year on Facebook or journal workshops or something, what I thought I would share today is a technique I've been using a little bit in my journals recently, and I think you're really going to like it, using pastels as soft pastels or charcoal, both in a sketchy form, a smudgy form and a wet media form, and really mixing those elements together to create really interesting both backgrounds and focal images. So what I'm going to do first is build up this page a little bit to bring it to a point where I might usually introduce pastels to create a background, and then at the end of the video what I'll do is share with you how I might use pastels to make a focal in my journals. What the overall mix of using the pastels in these different ways does is it really adds quite a lot of depth. It gives a painterly look, but it gives a sketchy look, but it gives kind of a moody, grungy kind of look as well. So it's really nice, just way to add extra interest into your journal pages. So this is a stage that I might get to when I introduce pastels into the background. Just have done a little bit of collage and a little bit of acrylic paint and gesso down. So I'm just going to give you a brief look at some pastels just to show you the differences of what's available, and just discuss the benefits of using different kinds in your journal pages. So you can obviously get the round kind like these, the handmade ones, the more expensive kind, or you can get the square kind like these. Often brands, the same brand, you can get the same pastels just formed in the different ways. And obviously these are half sticks, these are full size sticks, and obviously having a square means you've got more of an edge to draw with. Pastel pencils allow for the more detail that the corners of the square pastels give, but a lot more control obviously. These ones are obviously don't give that much fine detail to them. If you're doing something that's more pastel painting wise. For the backgrounds though, I kind of like these ones that are round but they're not too thick, so they're not going to cover a large area, like that one. And also these square ones. So these little set here, these are, and the reason why I like many different types of pastels is because it's like any other media out there. Every single brand of pastel, it's almost like you using a different medium, because some are hard, some are soft, some are crumbly, some are chalky, produce dust, some don't at all, and or nearly not at all. And so these ones here, these are a little travel set I brought, intending to take them out and about with me. I didn't, so what I've used them for is my knockabout set. I might need to explain knockabout, because I don't know if I've just said a regional thing. Knockabout, where I'm from, means like clothes that you don't mind getting mud on. It's kind of a kiddie term, you know, they're knockabout clothes, or in our thing, paint on. You don't mind knockabout clothes. So these are my knockabout pastels that I don't mind getting paint on, you know, I don't mind putting them into the background when there's wet acrylic paint on them. And these are really cheap. These were under £2 for this little set, and I really like them because of the texture. Is quite hard. It's almost a hard pastel. And the same with these Remembrance. When I brought these ones, I was expecting a really nice soft pastel, more kind of like this brand here. And I remember when I first used them, I was a little bit disappointed because they weren't that soft, creamy texture. But now I see the value in having a lot of different pastels that have a lot of different consistencies to them. Because like with these ones, so I'll start building on the background now just to show you ways that I might use it. Like these ones, you can see there's hardly any dust coming off of it. It's almost like using a crayon, and you can smudge it and it gives that really nice smoky, grungy kind of look. And then you can take your paintbrush, and so these are the three techniques really that I use. It's the sketching, just using it to sketch, it's the smudging, and then it's the painting with them, activating the colour with water and using it like a water soluble media. So I like the more harder pastels for more of my background work for that reason. These kind of three here, I'll use a different brand just to show you. It might be a little bit more chalky and is certainly a lot, see, I can take that a lot further. It's softer than these ones that are, they're called soft pastels, but they are more hard in their consistency. So what I prefer in my journals for the backgrounds is the harder pastels. So I like just adding background detail that is kind of grungy, that you don't look at when you look at a journal page, but it just increases the layers. And the fact that they're water, I mean, we think of water soluble media, mixed media artists, or particular people that, you know, do art journal pages. We consider those things like the Crandon Nash Neocolor 2s or the Derwent Inktense blocks, and I love those products, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore those products. I'm not knocking those products, but it just shows you how good their marketing is, that we think of them as a water soluble media when pastels have been used like this for centuries. You know, Degas would, you know, the beautiful ballerina pastels that he would do a base layer of pastel and activate it with water. And I just really like that. And with activating it with water, I'll talk about fixing it all in a minute. But the same is true of charcoal. Charcoal and pastel, naturally water-soluble material, so you can use charcoal like this, or the compressed charcoal if you don't like getting your hands messy with charcoal. Or of course you can use charcoal or pastel pencils. There's also this here, which is Wolf's Carbon. This is a carbon pencil and it's black, and it does the same thing again. It's can be smudged. It's a little bit tighter than pastels. It's not as easily manipulatable than a soft pastel for smudging, let's say, but it still activates with water. And the same is true of your charcoal pencils. So I would still suggest fixing your pastels with a fixative. I've often said hairspray, you know, but what I'm trying to show you here is just building up. I might come back in with some collage, I might come back in with some paints, whatever, and just build up. Let me show you this page. This page has that grungy feel to it, so you can see here I've used some pastels here just to even add interest to on top of the paint that looks like paint. So here this might look like watercolour, that's pastel, this here is pastel, all these little hints of colour are pastel, and it just really lifts because it's not a permanent kind of colour like paint. You don't, you know, like an opaque acrylic, say. It's kind of just a fine, what am I trying to say, fine layer on top. I can't think of another word. It's just a hint at something. It's just a tint. So you get all of that kind of grungy, sketchy, wetting some of it, leaving some of it smudged, leaving some of it as it comes directly out of the pastel. All of that adds to it. This here is just using the pastels, so just doing this with the pastels, getting a wet wipe and then just pulling it down, and you can see the painterly effect that that has. And when you do something like this, you don't necessarily need to fix it, because having wet the pastel, I haven't fixed this, and the pastel doesn't kind of, because it's activated already, taken all the chalk out of it, all the binders out of it. Here is a page that I use some acrylic on, but where there is kind of a lighter colour, that's pastel. This is pastel. It kind of gives like a watercolour effect just to use in your background. So that's how I might use them, different ways I might use them for the background. For creating a focal, I'm going to show you me creating this brunette Venus here. Using the three ways that I use pastels, straight out of the pastels, so you can see here it's got the sketchy look with water, so the painterly look, and then the smudging that you can see as well. So, and here is, again, it's all in the background as you can see, mixed with graphite, mixed with acrylic, mixed with gesso. So I hope you enjoy watching me make this, and I've maybe given you some interest in mixing pastels or charcoals or carbon in your journal pages if you don't already. Much love, everybody. Bye. If you're not already, come join me on my art community, jennaworkshops.ning.com, to connect with other artists, to ask questions, share ideas, share your artwork, get inspired by others' artwork, join in our monthly challenges, our other groups, our other classes, and just to connect with like-minded, beautiful, creative people like yourself. Much love, everybody. Bye bye.